What's going on, football fans? It's time once again for another rendition of the Pound for Pound. I'm your host, J.R. Clark, and we're going to be talking about, you guessed it, the NFL Draft. It's concluded. It's done. I was going to do day by day kind of deal, but I was like, you know what, that's what everybody else is doing. I'm not going to try to sit here and break down these picks because, let's just be honest, I ain't had a chance to watch all the game film that I need to watch. I may do something like just throughout the off season, and as camp goes, I may highlight certain guys, going forward when I do get the chance to actually sit down and watch them. So what I'm going to talk about is some of the things that I take away from this draft. Okay, some of the positives, I guess you could say, some of the things that I'm excited about. And first and foremost, one of the things I'm just absolutely thrilled about is the commitment to protect Matt Ryan. He hasn't seen this kind of draft capital and free agent capital thrown at protecting him since, I don't know, probably never. Okay, they picked to use a first round pick on Sam Baker, and Sam Baker was a good tackle. He just couldn't stay healthy, and that was a big knock on him, obviously. When you did see the healthy seasons from Sam Baker, that's what earned him that big old contract that he got. Now, obviously, ended up not being worth it because, he got injured yet again, which opened the door for Jake Matthews to go ahead and step in as the left tackle. But now you have something that no team has ever had, the possibility of starting 5 first-round picks on the offensive line at the same time. I don't know if any of y'all seen that. I saw that earlier this morning, and I was like, wow, that's definitely extremely interesting. Something that has never happened in the NFL. And with, all the way from, if they started the lineup of Matthews, Carpenter, Mack, Lindstrom, and McGray, then you would have a offensive line of first-round picks. So let's put this into perspective. Until Dallas Cowboys went on their spree of building their offensive line, they were a repeated joke. Okay, they still kind of are, but they became more relevant once they built that freaking line in front of Tony Romo and now Dak Prescott. Hell, the reason why Ezekiel Elliott looks as good as he does, not saying he's not a great player, but as good as he does, is because of that offensive line. Okay, let's just be real. Now you have the same thing up in Indy. They had to build that line because freaking Andrew Luck was just getting tattooed. And they built that line. Guess what? Made the playoffs, right? Last year, Matt Ryan got sacked 42 times and got hit over 100 times in 16 games. And he still put up almost MVP-type numbers that he did in 16. So, let's, extrapolate a little bit. If we keep that man clean, like he had in 16, when we had a top 5 offensive line going into the Super Bowl. Now, granted, Alex Mack had his leg injury, and you could really see that in the Super Bowl. But other than that, let's say they had a top 5 offensive line, right? Guess what? In the regular season, Matt Ryan hit 13 different receivers for touchdowns. Coincidence? Probably not. Okay, so if we can keep the man clean and keep him upright, he can carve a defense apart, right? I know what y'all sitting there telling me, JR, we should have went defensive line. We should have bolstered defensive line. Look, I'm there with you. And I honestly think that they tried to do that in the first round, right? There were reports that somebody was trying to trade up with Detroit. That was probably us. We were probably going to go after Ed Oliver. Detroit apparently wanted more than we were willing to give up. We stayed pat. We took Chris Lindstrom instead. The best, probably the best guard in the draft, period, point blank, right? Okay. Now, you're talking about, JR, they traded back up into the first round, traded away a second and a third. Okay, now that was not super happy about. I'm never real happy about giving away those types of draft collateral. I think the first 4 rounds of the draft are very important to me. I think you can get solid starters all the way through. But they full on said, Dimitrov said, they originally were targeting McGarry in this mid-second round, but you started having that little bit of a run on offensive tackles that you saw carry over into the beginning of the second round. So Dimitroff full-on didn't feel like that McGarry was going to be there when they picked in the second round. So he had to be aggressive. And one thing that Dimitroff has shown us through this whole process is if there's somebody he wants, he's going to go get them. Okay? I mean, not regardless of what it costs, but almost regardless of what it costs. You know, so he made the move. And from what I have seen of McGarry since Thursday night, the little bit of film that I have been able to watch, dude's a road grader. And he has that nasty Harvey Dahl type attitude that we've been looking for. There was a report that come out, I think the AJC posted it, talking about like really weird, like socially awkward shit where he like cut some speaker wires or whatever in the locker room because they were playing rap when they were supposed to be playing country. Made it sound like real bad, you know, the way it was worded. And but since that report has come out, his own teammates who are already in the league or not even in the league yet or whatnot come out on social media basically saying, look, y'all don't even know what you're talking about. You know, that situation, y'all are making it sound way worse than what it is. This guy's a great teammate, and everybody loved him. So he seems like that type of guy who's got that kind of crazy that you want, like that kind of crazy that you want on your side, kind of like that Tack McKinley crazy. You know what I'm saying? So I'm really excited to have, you know, a true powerful like road grading right tackle. His technique is probably still needs to be polished, but you know what you know, college guy doesn't need to have his technique polished at least a little bit. So I know what you're saying. Well, JR, they drafted these two offensive linemen in the first round, but they also signed, you know, John Carpenter and Jamon Brown. Right, exactly. That's not a bad thing. I don't know why people were tripping out that it's a bad thing. You know, last few years you've had people go down, and we've had to turn to backups that weren't really ready. Okay. Now, if the backup, if our first rounders aren't necessarily ready, you have guys who have game experience and a good amount of game experience to turn to, and vice versa, right? If the guys with game experience, you know, aren't living up to hype, or if they get hurt, now you got first rounders to take up that place. Okay, so it's not a bad thing. For the last few years, when we've had guys go down, we've had other guys who couldn't start for anybody else per se, you know, coming in and filling a role, and we saw what happened. So now you should have a plethora of more talent, whether it be Ty Sombrello or Carpenter or Brown or even Wetzel, John Wetzel, I believe is his name, all fighting for roster spots, right? And so we're literally going to have the best five that we can put out there, plus like the best 4 or 5 backups, which is something we ain't had in a while. And I think that was a real mandate going into this offseason. I mean, you can see where their free agent capital was spent and their draft capital was spent, okay? That capital was spent keeping Matt Ryan upright, period, point blank. So let's move on to the fourth round, right? Fourth round, you ended up getting what could be the like slot type guy. No, not slot. They said outside. The cornerback out of Ohio State, the Kendall Sheriff, or I believe it's Sheffield maybe. Dude, super fast, quick twitch. He kind of tumbled down per se for like medical reasons, but apparently I think it sounds like he's fully healed from that stuff. So he'll be an interesting prospect to, you know, maybe not necessarily a starting role this year, but possibly a starting role if they decide to move on from Trufant in a year or so. But the two cornerbacks that they did pick, that guy and Jordan Miller, they seem to be more ball hawkish. I mean, as much as we love Trufant, and we do, Trufant's a good corner. I know the Twitterverse likes to, you know, talk crap on Trufant, but my biggest deal with Trufant, he's got stones for hands. You know, if he could just catch a few more of those and turn the ball over, it'd be amazing. So let's see if that's something that he can work on, right? But these two guys that they brought in, paired with KZ, I think the secondary depth is looking real good right now. Now I know what you're saying. JR, they didn't address the defensive line. They didn't address the defensive line. Right. Kinda. Right? The John Kaminsky, Division II player, come into college at like 215 pounds, come out of college at 285. That's a big boy. Okay? Now, the part that kind of worries me is Division II, right? If you get a chance, go and watch the Senior Bowl. He participated in the Senior Bowl. And he had I know what I saw, he had a pass deflected, which was real good to see. Real active, real powerful dude. Come in and I think early on be a part of that rotation, right? And I think he could end up being that inside-out guy that they've been looking for, right? You know, they brought Claiborne back, and I bet you they're hoping that this guy seasons for a year, get him some rep here and there, and maybe he can take that over and be that inside-out guy. You know, sometimes lining up in a 3-tech or sometimes lining up as an edge defender. But he's definitely got the size and the speed for sure. If there's one thing I can say about this draft, full on, is size. They wanted some big fellas. I guess they got finally getting tired of getting pushed around, you know. Which brings me to the running back that they got out of Pitt. Olsen? No. Y'all gonna have to give me a minute on that guy's name. But I did watch a little bit of his tape. The dude is like 6'2", 225. They've been finally drafted a bigger running back. I know what you're going to say. Well, you know, Brian Hill's a bigger running back. Yeah, he is, and he has a chance to do something. But they brought in some competition for him. And it seems like they brought in a lot of competition, you know, for a lot of different guys, which is good to see. I mean, the kid that they drafted at the very end of the draft out of Louisiana Monroe, Marcus. Boy, I am blanking on these names right now. My apologies, but the kid out of Louisiana Monroe, he seems like a gadget player in a lot of ways, like a return specialist, which is what he was in college, but he also played receiver and running back. So it's kind of guy that he's got too much athleticism and too much skill to keep off the field, but you're not 100% sure where you're going to put him. So those are the kind of guys you take in the 6th round. So all in all, I like this draft. These past couple drafts have been like meat and potatoes kind of drafts, right? So I think you add last year's meat and potatoes draft with this year's meat and potatoes draft, and I think you're really getting some solid depth, and you're going to have some solid depth because you got some major contracts coming up. You got Keanu Neal, you got Deion Jones, you got Devondre Campbell. Okay, that's just 3 on the defensive side. You got to decide whether you're going to keep Vic Beasley, depending on what he does this year. Then you got Takk McKinley coming up. All right? So there are some hefty contracts that are coming up. Like, you still got to figure out Grady. And because of all that, because of how well you drafted then, you have to keep doing it because there's going to be some guys that you lose, right? So this is what, like I said, this is what I consider yet another meat and potatoes draft. And potentially solving our offensive line issue for the next 4 to 5 years, which is awesome. Which is something I'm glad to see that they finally put some draft capital in. So that's what I got for you right now. Obviously, keep an eye on certain sites like the Falcoholic and stuff like that for your undrafted free agent trackers, because those are always important because undrafted guys always make the team, you know. So you could sprinkle in some more defensive linemen there if that's what you're worried about. And also go check out, see who's still available in free agency. Because just because we ain't got no cap right now, you still got the Julio Jones deal and the Grady Jarrett deal that are probably going to get done in the coming weeks, coming months, right? That could free up some draft capital that they could potentially go and sign somebody else. I mean, not saying that they're going to, but just think about it. Ndamukong Suh's still out there, right? So, not all is lost. And as we move down through the off season, I'll be there about or as I watch some more tape on the guys that we have drafted, I may try to do like spotlights kind of deal. But this has been like an overview, in my opinion, of the draft. Was it a shiny draft? No, it was a gritty, tough draft, and I think our team got better, which is what you want to say, what you want to be able to say. I don't think we made any mispicks, right? But that's it's too early to tell right now. But with that being said, appreciate it, and we'll holler at y'all later. And always, Falcons fans, rise up.